The St. Louis Blues finally won a preseason game. Let's talk about it.
Hey, this is Brandon Chen. Subscribe to Lock On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. And the St. Louis Blues won a preseason game 7-1 against the Ottawa Senators last night. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about a few other things. And a couple of the things that I want to talk to you today about have to do with training camp, right? Because we almost have the final roster. And I feel like for me, at least, there's a lot of positives that come within that. So we're going to talk about camp as a whole. And then we are feeling blue. Well, that's the biggest question today. Are we feeling blue? So we will talk about my favorite Friday segment. Before we get into things, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Last night, the Blues won, and I have to tell you, I feel so much better now about this team. As many of you know, I was a little bit nervous. I was apprehensive heading into the regular season without a win. And I have to tell you, last night's win couldn't have been better. It couldn't have been more perfect. We saw an outstanding game from a lot of players that I told you to focus in on. And we also saw Jordan Binnington stellar in net. Overall, this was a really good game, and I cannot wait to talk to you more about it. But I think it goes to show that we as a fan base, we needed this win. I saw so many of you on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, getting a little bit nervous that the Blues have yet to win a preseason game. And I can kind of tell by how the posts were being made that it also was frustrating for many. And I'm here to reassure you this. We can head into the regular season now having a win. And while this win doesn't count for points, because no preseason game counts for points, it does count for confidence. It does count for momentum. And overall, it does count for all of us who are true and loyal Blues fans being able to cheer on our team. It was so much fun last night to watch that game. Now, what I will say is I do have a little bit of beef because if you do not live in St. Louis, you're unable to access the game on the team's website. Luckily, I did a little bit of FBI investigative work and I found out on the Ottawa Senators webpage any single person could watch the game. It did not matter where you were located. So I enjoyed the Senators broadcast being like, oh, and St. Louis scores another goal. It was really fun to hear the misery that Ottawa was going through. I like the guys that Locked On Senators. I tweeted them. They did not tweet me back, probably because I was being a little bit shady. But nonetheless, I was more excited that my team was finally getting some goals and finally able to get a win. But let's talk more about that game because it all began with Matthew Joseph, Mojo. And this was a goal that he needed. I told you in yesterday's episode of Locked On Blues, I really wanted to pay close attention to Matthew Joseph. And he listened to the show probably and answered because he scored a goal within 3 minutes of the contest. And that goal, too, it was nicely set up by our captain, Brayden Schenn. I cannot say enough good things about Brayden Schenn, especially this preseason and especially at camp. The way that Brayden Schenn has stepped up as a captain and just stepped up as a player overall makes me feel so confident. And this is why I also feel like I could see Schenner being the 3C. And I don't think that's a disadvantage or not a disadvantage per se, but I don't think that's a demotion. That's the word. I don't think that. I think it's a promotion because you're putting him into a spot where he can perform better. And I think at the end of the day, you want to elevate your players as much as possible. And you're not going to do that by putting them in positions where they're not going to succeed. So for that, I was really happy. Then not even 2 minutes later, it was always sunny because Oscar Sundquist was able to score the nice feed from Nathan Walker. And you know how big of a fan I am of Oscar Sundquist. And I think, again, it's just a confidence booster. He's going to most likely be your 4C heading into the season. So, again, this was another step for him showing his presence on the ice. So, I really like that the guys that we really haven't seen much from were able to step it up. And then finally, getting his first goal of the preseason, my favorite player, one of the best players in the NHL, one of the best players of all time. Okay, maybe I'm getting a little bit too excited here. Robert Thomas, my boy Robert Thomas scored, making it 3-0, not even 2 minutes later. That's how this game was going. It was goal after goal after goal, and it was a beautiful sight to watch. And with Robert Thomas, I don't think there's enough good things I can say about him. I think I talk about Tomer all the time on this podcast, all the time in real life. I mean, I have a really bad knockoff Robert Thomas sweater behind me that you all see. It was like really badly done. But yeah, he's my favorite player. I'm not going to deny that. However, last night it was good seeing him get the puck in the back of the net. Then we go to the second period. 3 more goals for the Blues. Bushi, first goal of the preseason. But it was really nicely set up by Logan Mailloux. This is his second assist of the preseason. And again, Logan Mailloux, I believe, played a really good game last night. He wasn't so jumpy on the ice, which is a really good thing. You don't want to be like overly aggressive, especially as a younger defenseman. You want to kind of take your time and read the ice and make smart plays and smart decisions. Then, well, we got back-to-back bro goals in like under 20 seconds. Philip Broberg scores, and then not even 20 seconds later, he scores again. So those are goals 2 and 3 for him on the preseason, making it 6-0. We head into the final frame. And listen, it sucks when the other team scores. Ottawa scored like 45 seconds in, whatever. Like, at the end of the day, like, what are we going to do about it, right? But then, my guy, Dylan bleeping Holloway scores with the last minute of play winding down. So you have 2 goals from Broberg and a goal from Holloway in this game. And then the game prior, you had 2 goals from Holloway and 1 from Broberg. So they kind of just flip flopped a little bit. But the big story is my guy, Jordan Binnington, your future starting goalie for Team Canada, one of the best goalies in the NHL. Truly, in my opinion, one of the best Blues players in franchise history. I mean, his rookie season, he did give us a cup. 36 saves in last night's contest. So the stars of the game went to Philip Broberg with 2 goals, 1 assist. Binner, the winner, got the second star with 36 saves. And then my boy Robert Thomas got the third star with 1 goal, 2 assists. Now, what I will say is Ottawa, obviously, I mentioned the 36 saves. They had 37 shots on net compared to the Blues' 26. They had 37 hits compared to the Blues' 26, but both teams were dead even in penalty minutes with 4 apiece. And the penalties that the Blues took last night came in the final frame. I mean, you had a Dylan Holloway hooking, and then you had a Maluchik hooking too. So at the end of the day, it was relatively a clean game, wasn't too choppy. But nonetheless, the Blues won, and it was so good. I was so excited watching that game too. Like, I have to tell you, and we're going to be real here. We're going to be just friends, you and I, at the moment. I was a little bit nervous, as you know, when they weren't winning these games. But with an NHL roster, because that's what we saw last night, that's the team that I know and love, okay? It's not a diss to some of these guys that are AHL players, but there's a difference, a huge difference between being NHL ready and AHL ready. So when you have an NHL ready team, obviously you're going to see much better play. But I also thought it was a little weird that Dvorsky wasn't in the lineup. He's a player that I really want to make the team. I really want him to be on the opening night roster, and that made me a little bit nervous. Why aren't we seeing Dvorsky when we have one final preseason game left? That's a question that I'm going to dive into coming up. But first, I'm going to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I personally love FanDuel because I love my same game parlays, and the Philadelphia Eagles are playing the Broncos this weekend. Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown. Saquon Barkley, over on rushing yards. And you know what? Let's let's do Eagles money line. So that's a 3-leg parlay. You're going to make some money. Last week I told you to do Dallas Goedert anytime touchdown, Eagles money line. Both things hit. He got 2 touchdowns actually. So it was basically guaranteed. So whenever you bet with me, we win. So this is what you need to do. Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. We are 1 week away. Well, we're actually 6 days away. We're Broberg days away, as the Blues wanted to put out, from the start of the season, regular season, when the points count. And it's interesting because I feel as if the Blues kind of just should begin today, right? After that contest last night, I just want hockey to begin, but I know that we have to play one more preseason game in Chicago, and then we're back on home ice to take on the Wild. But here's the thing. I think, and this is just my opinion, I think the Blues are going to win that game. I do. I do. I know I didn't think that before. I was not as confident, but I think after seeing what they did last night with an NHL roster on the ice, I just feel so much more confident about this team's abilities and capabilities. And also, too, I also want to mention that they were the better team in the playoffs last year. I mean, I know that the Blues and Wild didn't play each other, obviously, but the Blues just looked like the better team. So when it comes to confidence level, I just feel really good about the St. Louis Blues team. And, there's a lot of positives too within the Blues. Like today, it was announced that Steiner, he has been named to Team Sweden's management group for the 2026 Olympic staff. So that is a really big thing for Steiner, and I'm happy for him. And I know that might sound like a little bit silly to you, but I feel like the Blues, I mean, they're just such a top tier organization. And when good things happen to, your higher ups, it's going to also translate to what goes on in the ice. So I think that there is a lot of positives that we need to talk about as well. And this is a quote from Steiner from Jeremy Rutherford. I'm honored to have this opportunity. Representing Sweden is a privilege that I hold in the highest regard, and I'm looking forward to working closely with the members of our federation, our coaching staff, and our great players as we prepare for the 2026 Olympic Games. Also, when it comes to the Olympic Games, I am still expecting to be the starting goalie of Team Canada, Jordan Binnington. I'm also expecting to make the roster Robert Thomas, one of the best hockey players of all time. And of course, my guy, Colton Parayko on defense. For Team France, we already know it's going to be Texier. I think Dalibor Dvorsky is going to be a Czech. So a lot of good things. But you know what? I need to address the elephant in the room right now. The Locked On Podcast Network, we had a top 100 list that went out where you could vote on the players that you believe are the best 100 players in the National Hockey League. And I am very annoyed at a lot of people. I'm annoyed at every single host that isn't me. And yes, I have called them out on social media, Locked On Blues, because they didn't put one of the best players in the top 100 list. And you might be wondering, who might that be? Jordan Binnington. They disrespected the GOAT. They disrespected one of the best goalies of all time. So, yeah, let's go look at this list and you can see how much fraudulent behavior there really is with this. Oh, you think Erik Karlsson is better than Jordan Binnington? Like Thomas Hertl? Be so for real. Jordan Kyrou at 81 is such an insult. He should be in the top 50. But hey, what? Again, stupid. Then, oh, look at this. You really have Celebrini, who is so young, over Jordan Binnington. Okay, the list continues. Okay, we're looking. Literally, Travis Konechny. Are you kidding me? Dylan Strome. Are you kidding me? Vince Dunn. I mean, okay, I like Vince Dunn. But Darcy. Oh, no. That's a violation. Then we continue on and on. Look at all of this. Clayton Keller. I mean, he's really good. So, yeah, he deserves that. Jason Robertson. That's fine. This is how you know the list is not right. Why is Nick Suzuki at 59? Come on. Oh, this is where the insults really begin. You have Robert Thomas one of the best centers in the NHL at 48. You have Kyle Connor ahead of Robert Thomas. Can we just talk about that? Can we just talk about the disrespect? The disrespect continues. You really have Ovechkin at 26? Again, I did not vote for this. I don't approve. Okay, now we're kind of getting close to the top 10. Okay. Like, what a disrespectful list to have one of the best American goalies in Jake Ottinger at 31. You also have Ilya Sorokin at 33. And listen, I saw him play last night in the preseason. He didn't look that hot. This is bias, obviously. Oh, I skipped one. This is the top 20. Okay, we're looking Eichel, Mitch Marner, Matthew Tkachuk. You can make the argument that Tkachuk is like a top 10. Sidney Crosby, what has he done good lately? Jack Hughes, again, injury prone. Then we have our top 10. Connor McDavid. Okay, where's the cup? Nathan McKinnon. Okay, fine. Leon Draisaitl. Again, where's the cup? Cale Makar. Fine. Kucherov. Fine. Austin Matthews. Again, where's the cup? Connor Hellebuck. Hold on. I need to put a tweet out as I'm doing this podcast. This is so disrespectful in so many ways. Yeah, he was the best goalie in the regular season. He got pulled in every single game in St. Louis. So again, disrespectful. This, you know what? List is canceled. I don't want to look at this. This is what I'm saying. You have Connor Hellebuck in your top 10, but yet you don't have Jordan Binnington in the top 100, who outperformed Connor Hellebuck, who beat him in the Four Nations face-off. Again, I think every single host of the Locked On Podcast Network that isn't me owes me an apology. They do. I told them that. No one has yet. Locked On Flyers retweeted what I said because I was sitting next to him in the press box. But every single host owes me an apology because that to me is just completely disrespectful. It's tacky. It's not cool to do that. In a way, I kind of feel like Jordan Binnington was being targeted by the different hosts because they're threatened by him. And that's what it comes down to. So, I'm sorry that my goalie is better than your goalie. At least my team has two good goalies. The amount of teams in the NHL, by the way, that don't have good goalies and then actively voted not to have Jordan Binnington in, it just speaks to how insecure you are about your team. Anyways, so training camp will resume tomorrow, and the Blues will be on the ice for morning skate at 11:15, and then it will be Blues and Blackhawks at the United Center at 6 p. Non-game group will be on at 10 a. So the Blues have their final preseason game before they head into what I would like to call the season where we chase the cup. Now, I know that probably won't happen, right? I'm not a little bit naive. I'm not going to come on this podcast and say the Blues are going to win the Stanley Cup. But I think at the end of the day, it's safe to assume that the Blues might be a contending team within the next couple seasons. So why wouldn't we be excited? Why wouldn't we want to express that? And most importantly, for all of you who might be a little bit doubtful and a little bit, Haley, there's no way they're going to do this. You said the same thing when they were doing really bad in 18-19 and they ended up winning the cup. I mean, again, don't forget, my friends, they were the worst team in the NHL. So we're going to talk in my final segment to wrap things up. My favorite segment, my favorite Friday segment, the only consistent segment. Are we feeling blue? Was this a good week or was this a bad week for the St. Louis Blues? The week didn't start off good, to be honest. Losing preseason games, that sucked. The vibes weren't high. Justin Carbonneau getting sent to his juniors team. Not a fan of that. But what I will say is that the Blues winning last night 7-1 against the Ottawa Senators made me feel so good for what's about to happen with this team. There are so many positives and so many things that we can look at with this team where we should just feel immensely confident heading into the regular season. I believe the Blues are going to have 100 points this season. I do. I feel it in my soul. They weren't too far off last season. I believe it was the 96 points, so you just need a couple more wins. But this is going to be a very competitive Central Division. This is going to be the most competitive it's ever been. You have teams like the Dallas Stars, the Avalanche, unfortunately the Winnipeg Jets, the Wild, and the Blues. Utah, they might be, giving some mixed vibes, but I want to see it before I believe it. I believe that they have a lot of good players on the Mammoth. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Clayton Keller, 90-point season from him last season. So again, I expect big things from the St. Louis native. However, the St. Louis native is not on the St. Louis Blues. Therefore, we're going to leave it at that. But I think that the Blues are in a position where they really have everything going for them. And with Logan Mailloux playing really well on the ice last night, that makes me feel even more confident about our defense, which has been, as we know, an issue. I think fundamentally, this team has what it takes. We have a coach within Jim Montgomery who is a seasoned NHL coach that really is going to elevate this team in so many ways. And we've seen that already. Sometimes when you don't have wins in the preseason, you have to look at other factors. I look at the power play, the penalty kill. I look on the spacing on the ice. I'm looking at all these other things that I don't get to focus on as much in the regular season because I'm so focused on how the team's going to do overall. But I also want you to hear from one of my favorite players of all time, Robert Thomas, on the win last night.
Knowing what kind of lineup you guys had tonight, is that a pretty good result for you guys?
Yeah, we did a lot of good things at the start. Kind of got away from it and then back to it a little bit. So, it's nice to get a win on the board and feel like we played a better game and trending in the right direction.
What were some of the things you liked?
I think we were, when we were dumping it in and when we were possessing the puck, we created a lot of success and turnovers and had good sticks. We still got a little lazy in the D zone and neutral zone, but, overall, we'll take it.
I think a lot of us think of Snuggerud as a shooter, but what can you tell us about his passing?
Yeah, he's a great player. Obviously, he's got a great shot, but when he has the puck on his stick, he likes to make moves. He likes to pass. He sees the ice really well. So, he's there's not too many just shooters anymore. There's he can do a lot of good things out there.
Robert, you played with Binnington quite a bit. When he's locked in and he looks like he's one of the best, what's going on out there? What do you feel like he's doing?
Yeah, I think just the whole team in front of him just feels comfortable. With him and Binner and Hof, how good our goalies are, and it gives us a lot of confidence. To make more aggressive plays and to try and possess the puck more and play an aggressive game. So especially handling the puck. A lot of times there's a couple of times we were hemmed in the zone there. Their D rim it down, and even though they're in they have full control in the O zone, he's cutting it off and making a play so guys can change. So so many things he does well.
What do you think about your power play unit, and why do you think it can be successful?
Yeah, we found success, especially in the second half of the year. We were sloppy tonight and last game, but keep getting some more reps. We haven't had too many reps, especially in games. So just calming down a little bit, taking a little bit more time, and I think we'll be fine.
So as you heard from Robert Thomas, he feels really confident. I like that he talked a lot about the second half of last season, just because that's when the boys did turn things around. And I wanted you to hear that from him because it was such a good win last night by our Blues, and the performance that they put on really just solidified why this is a team that you should be afraid of if you're not a Blues fan. Like, you should be afraid of the Blues this upcoming season. I'm excited because this is my team. So that being said, I hope everybody has a good weekend. I'll be live tweeting tomorrow night about the final preseason game. Interested to see who will be playing. I suspect it won't be me. You know what? Maybe Dvorsky will be in the lineup probably. But I'll talk to you then. And like always, let's go Blues.